Hey, it's Jay. I've got another lesser-known television detective from the 1970s to tell you about. Our private detective empires back then, as this one is a protege of our old friend, Jim Rockford. The 22-year-old detective, even though he is definitely 23 during the entire run of his television show.
You are Richard T. Brockelman. You are 23 years old.
Made some inquiries.
They said I was good?
They said you were 23.
Oh.
Kid detective, Richie Brockelman, Private Eye.
Richie Brockelman Investigations. Boy, am I glad you guys showed up. I don't mean to tell you your jobs, but this character's been chasing me all over Hollywood. We begged him, please just tell us the room number. All we want to do is talk. A ton of water in there. You must have hit a log or something. You know, my uncle hit a beer bottle with his ski boat, tore a hole in it, cost $250 to repair. You know that water...
Are we late enough in the video yet? I think we're good. Okay, this little shit is the pet project of two of the best in the game, Stephen J. Cannell and Stephen Bochco. Played by a young but not that young Dennis Dugan, Richie is a bit of a chatterbox, a detective in the same way Nancy Drew is a detective, charging into the room and getting to everyone's business, usually being intentionally annoying so people will underestimate him and he could weasel his way out of there. He's lurking in your bushes, lying to secretaries to peek through someone's calendar, you know, that kind of obnoxious bullshit. I actually really liked Richie Brockelman, the scamp. This kid is charming. Hard to believe this guy became a frequent Adam Sandler collaborator, directing most of the most mediocre comedy schlock. They made a Shaggy Dog movie in the 90s? Oh, the first movie he directed was Problem Child? Gross. I hate Problem Child. That child was a sadist. We first meet Richie Brockelman in the TV movie The Missing 24 Hours in 1976. It is a fairly simple detective movie of the style at the time, a basic crime mystery centered around goons, and a fun character study of just the most precocious guy. The movie introduces us to Richie at the beach where he's surfing like a real dork before getting into his old Mustang and driving to the office while this very Beach Boy theme song plays. It is fairly catchy, if a bit hokey. He heads to the office because he has an office with a secretary, and you will not believe this child is not good with money.
Oh, and Rich, Mr. Delaney called again. He knows you went out the fire escape on him yesterday. He's real mad, Rich. He wants his rent.
Amazed that he has his own agency, really. He claims that he's 31, but this is a lie. This kid is 22. It says so very clearly on the box. He still does his laundry at his parents' house. A woman comes in looking for someone to help. She can't remember anything, a case of post-traumatic amnesia. All she really knows is she feels an urge to go to San Diego and she needs someone to give her a ride. She's not so sure about Richie though. He seems rather green, but he is enthusiastic and honor-bound. He feels like he needs to help this woman, especially since she appears to be pursued by a couple of dudes in suits. He sticks with her through the whole affair, even chasing her down when she tries to ditch him. They stumble around town, picking up new clues and trying to piece together just what happened yesterday. What happened was Seth Hazlitt here killed his wife in front of his secretary, who managed to escape and was being hunted down by these men the whole time. Unfortunately, she assumes she's his wife, because of the amnesia, and is left with him when they break into his house. Richie realizes something was a bit off and rushes to her rescue, going back to the den of the mobsters with his football friend and beating the address out of them so he can save her with a car chase. Richie saves the day, but his girlfriend breaks up with him because he just spent the last 3 days with another woman. Oh, he has a girlfriend, they were engaged, although Richie was offered $15,000 to break off the engagement on account of how he is Jewish.
Culturally, ethnically, and every other way, you're not our kind of person, Rich. I'll never let a deadbeat, fly-ridden Hasidic stumblebum get away with my daughter. Is that clear enough to you now, Brockelman?
I'm not for sale, sir.
Oof to this, but Richie didn't take the money because he was a stand-up guy, so his father just lied about the conversation to make Richie look bad. You really should have taken the money, Richie. He said something anti-Semitic directly to you. So he's sad and going to the Bogart movie marathon at the Westlake when that woman whose name we never found out until like right now, her real name is Elizabeth Morton, she wants to thank him for everything he did for her, you know, at the hotel. They're gonna fuck. It's a fun movie. Dennis finds a character almost immediately. He's just a plucky little guy who won't shut the fuck up, but he's heroic in exactly the way his stupid ass needs to be. He does get into some real stupid situations, like when he gets his ass beat by a soldier for no clear reason and a guy comes over and explains his wife just left him and he's been drinking for 24 hours straight. And you guys didn't stop him? He punched Richie like 4 times.
Oh, Richie, you shouldn't have stopped it. I had him.
The movie didn't perform well enough to go to series, but the Steves were undeterred, deciding to use their already very successful private detective show to give Richie the best chance to fly, starring in the 2-part season 4 finale of the Rockford Files. Jimmy and Richie team up to investigate the death of their mutual mentor, Joe Tooley, who died in a car crash on the freeway.
What the hell was he doing on a freeway?
Well, maybe he was trying to get someplace.
He never used them. 10 years I've known Joe Tooley. He never used the freeways. I mean,
They meet at the private eye funeral, see a bunch of Jim's colleagues. There's the Vincenzo one who sucks.
You want to upset the family? Is that what you want to do? All I said. I heard what you said. It's crazy. Now shut up.
There's the cool one.
Yeah, come to think of it, it was his peepers. Hey, I gotta shag out of here.
There's Mr. Crinkly Bones.
Since he's spooked by the freeway anyway, he makes a dumb lane change and gets gazpachoed by a gas truck.
We also get to see several PI offices, and the villain is another private eye turned information broker. It's a very private eye heavy episode, a broad tapestry of shady guys in suits. Both of them do some snooping because
Joe Tooley, he never used the freeway.
Don't you see? He'd never be on the freeway.
Listen, does it bother either one of you guys that Joe got hit by a gas truck on the freeway? I keep thinking about Joe and what was he doing on the freeway?
Hey, that's the same thing that got me started.
Richie goes snooping in the morgue to discover that the cremated body likely wasn't Joe, and Jim breaks into his office to see if there's any clues coming across a weird address. He trips some kind of alarm breaking in though, mobilizing a couple of goons. Rockford gets out of there in time, but that asshole St. Cloud breaks in right after and gets picked up and dragged away, driving to a parking garage where the craziest op games I've ever seen happens. So they pull up to this car with blackened windows, and the man in the car starts talking through this speaker. His men have hooked up St. Cloud so his heartbeat is picked up by a lie detector in his car. He begins to ask St. Cloud questions about what info he's gleaned, which is absolutely nothing.
Well, all right, okay, look. Not that you should think less of me, but I figured that maybe if I stole his caseload, made a few calls, maybe I could end up with a case.
St. Cloud is a shitty detective. He was only there to steal Joe's clients, so the oddball in the black car cuts him loose. Meanwhile, at a Los Angeles City Council meeting, some busybody is complaining about all the construction in the valley.
Now, when are you going to start being responsive to the people who are trying to keep this state from being overrun with franchise eating establishments and billboards?
Both Jim and Richie drop in to talk to this guy, since Joe was working for him, and Richie decides they are working together now. He's really excited about it. He keeps complimenting Jimmy, telling him he's one of the greats. He really loves how Jimmy handled that trucking scandal, which could be referencing the episode where Rocky was selling tickets to the truck driver's ball. But that can't be the only trucking scandal Rockford's dealt with. Richie's a real chatterbox, and it's fun watching these two banter.
He hated the freeway.
Do you mind if I finish a sentence?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're very persistent, son.
You should see me do crossword puzzles.
They head to the weird address and check it out and find the house is empty except for a large air conditioning unit, which can't possibly work inside a house, right? Like it needs to be outside to not completely make this air unbreathable somehow? I don't know. I guess they found this one somewhere. This doesn't make any sense, so they lie their way into a computer room so they can start looking stuff up.
You did 5 years in the state prison?
What?
Yeah, it says here that your credit is subnormal, you did time in state prison, and you owe the bank $2,500? Hey, there's no need to get sore.
And chat with a city council weirdo who has a very strange relationship with his dog.
If you can't behave, you have to go in the other room, all right? Excuse me, gentlemen.
You stay in there, BB. Big people are talking. Well, there were a half a dozen other things, too. Misuse of county funds. Hold it a minute, baby. You know, billboard advertising kickbacks, okay?
And then suddenly they're being chased down by a county car that fires a lot of buckshot into Jim's door. They get out of there and Jim is prepared to give up. He's done. Time to go to Mexico.
I was thinking about going down to Mexico myself. You know, Joe's dead and all our poking around, maybe turning up something. It's not gonna put any more candles on his cake, right?
Richie tells a very boring story about a guy who likes trains, and then we get a to be continued. The intro to the second episode helpfully retells the previous so we know what is happening. The weirdo in the black car, McGregor, is a former PI turned security consultant who is doing something, and has tasked all his agents with chasing down anyone who happens to walk into various locations, and they killed Joe to prevent him from telling about the thing he found out. That thing he found out was a data center being secretly built in the valley that McGregor was building with these shady Englishmen to collect a bunch of data about people. This is treated as a huge deal. Like, he gets arrested for this. Okay, he gets arrested for all the murders, but the newscaster talks about the story with this really severe tone, like how dare they do this? What do they want with all that data?
Why does a company install a secret, underground computer center right in the middle of one of the world's largest cities?
And the episode ends with a message from a member of some organization, and it's just kind of driving me insane. Rockford knew all along. Whichever one of the Steves wanted to make this statement is probably haunting the shit out of some Silicon Valley jerk. The boys are able to pull this all together when they run into that asshole St. Cloud again, who bitches at them and complains about that weird shit with the lie detector car in the parking garage, and Jim realizes that stupid business sounds like something McGregor would do.
Do you know who that reminds me of?
Who?
Garth McGregor.
Yeah, Jim just knows about our villain. How convenient. Unfortunately, that means they are in serious trouble. Because they know too much, they are being hunted by the McGregor agency with the help from the police, as warrants are issued for their arrest for all the crimes they did. They've broken into so many places, and their friends in the precinct aren't going to help them. So they make themselves scarce. Jim calls his dad and says it's time to hitch up the trailer home, moving it into the woods where they can fish and not be found. Rocky knows that Jim's in trouble because he rarely asks to move his entire house and asks him what he's going to do. He's going to talk to McGregor, see if he can call off the dogs. Richie objects it should be him, but Jim insists, breaking into Joe's office and playing with his wooden boat until some goons come for him and take him to a helicopter where McGregor is waiting. Jim fails his skill check.
Where do you go from there? Private security companies with private police powers? Companies who employ ex-cops and FBI agents? What are you up to, Mr. McGregor?
BJ! Welcome to the citrus industry, Mr. Rockford.
But fortunately, Richie was in the trunk of his car, so he sneaks onto the helicopter and takes out the goons, and then the two of them commandeer the helicopter to drop them off at the valley where all the construction is happening. They run around the facility for a while before being noticed, and then they run away, and the police show up, and the show is over. Love when things work out, I guess. They celebrate with a grill with the guy with the mustache, and now Jimmy is officially Richie's dad.
Well, it looks like you found a place to come and talk, son.
Oh, what the hey, Pop.
A couple of weeks after his appearance on the Rockford Files, his own series Richie Brockelman Private Eye started airing in Rockford's Friday night slot, which was not very well received, only running for 5 episodes before getting canceled. They really tried. They even create a little bumper where Rockford is there going over the evidence with Richie as a reminder that this kid is Jim's friend. You should watch his show. Please give Richie some more episodes.
I'm Jim Rockford. I've been on vacation. I came back to see how Richie was doing. Hey, you've been doing a good job.
Ah, you don't have to say that.
No, really, you're getting the job done.
Really?
So you got busted, huh?
But it didn't do well enough, and that's probably fine, because as entertaining as Richie is, the show feels oddly underdeveloped. They didn't really take advantage of what makes Richie unique, with no real family presence in the show and only 2 side characters, both of which don't get a lot to do. Richie has a secretary, Sharon, who spends all day just hanging out at the office by herself, taking calls, meeting visitors. That's it. She doesn't participate in any private eye stuff. She's just there. She's fine. They just don't give her anything to do. Also, she's played by Barbara Bozen, who was married to series creator Stephen Bochco and would find future success in other shows he created, mainly because he made a lot of them. Our other supporting character is Sergeant Ted Coppersmith, who is just a police officer he knows. He's a friendly enough guy, although he spends a fair amount of time calling Richie an idiot, talking about how embarrassed he is at the precinct to know this young kid. You know, the same thing Dennis Becker does with Rockford. About the only interesting detail we get about him is that he has 5 kids. 5! Seems like a real fun time at his house, actually. His wife Lola seems pretty chill.
Well, let's just get one thing straight. She can't stay here.
Why not?
Because
Why?
Because there's something funny going on here. That's why
Oh,
not.
come on, Ted. What's one more? We already got 5.
Remind me.
But the episodes themselves are bland, indistinguishable. I keep needing to remind myself what the 5 different episodes were, because they all kind of blend together. Solid C material, so we'll just talk about them in airing order. This is the family episode where we meet Richie's brother, Sidney, who is moving into a new house with his young wife and his good-paying job, and Richie's dad asks Sidney to talk Richie into taking his skills into something less dangerous, like accounting.
Richie. You know, Dad wants us to have this little talk, and I think it's only right that we ought to respect his wishes.
I am what I am. I'm an investigator.
So then that's what you ought to do. Investigate. Well, let's use an example. Say, hypothetical case, the investigation of an industrial chemical firm. Now, where does an investigation like that begin?
I don't know.
I'll tell you where. The business ledger. Eh? What do these columns of numbers mean? Do they balance?
However, it is good they have a PI in the family, as Perfect Sidney is framed for a crime when he leaves a ledger with this strange man who refuses to give it back to him. It becomes a whole thing, the brothers get arrested like twice each, and it all ends up being an insane money scheme involving this guy pretending to have severe brain damage, and Richie's able to stall long enough for the police to swoop in and solve everything. A whole lot of the episode ends up being the brothers yelling at each other, though.
I'm warning you, you little twink. You better stop it.
You're a great big chicken. Hey!
This is a really long-winded episode where Richie is hired to buy a car at an auction, which is immediately taken to the junkyard, where it is then stolen by some dudes, and Richie thinks that the car must be full of drugs or something, but it's not. It's actually evidence of a long-con attempt to get Mr. Girardi's junkyard fortune through his daughter. The bad guys decide that step 2 of the plan is kidnapping her for ransom, so Richie volunteers to rescue her, as he's just a squirrely enough guy to get captured and then really fuck up this boat to make an escape. And Mr. Girardi is so elated that he invites Richie to join his family by marrying his daughter. And while sure, they did kiss during the adrenaline rush of jumping in the ocean from armed men, but the episode made it clear that Richie is out of his league here. She knows how to ride a horse. Richie is tailing some guy on behalf of his wife, who is afraid he's cheating. He's actually doing corporate espionage at the behest of a detective agency. When he complains to them about Richie, they send Rene Aubergenois to hire him so he stops working his case, offering him a $30,000 signing bonus. He's real hype about the job, but he starts realizing something is amiss when his former client reports that her husband is now dead, because they decided to kill him. Richie uses his job's resources to start poking around, which really pisses off Odo.
We do not go skulking around without letting our superiors know about it. Are you getting my point? Now, if you cannot conform to the needs of this company, then perhaps we ought to be rethinking our entire arrangement.
So they decide to kill Richie. But fortunately, he manages to confuse and perplex his captors by taking them to the mansion he's house sitting, where he's trapped a vicious dog in a bedroom. He does end up having to pay a significant amount of his reward to refurnishing the bedroom, because the dog probably pooped a bunch in there, tore up the curtains.
Call him over here.
Are you kidding? No.
Come on, call. Will you call him over here?
I don't want to do that.
All right, I'll show you. Lowell, come here, boy.
Richie has an entire friend group for this episode only, which we're supposed to believe are buddies from his time in the fraternity, but for some reason his friend has a dead wife and a 5-year-old child and spent 16 months in Nam, and it feels like these people are much older than 23, which is the age Richie is supposed to be. So this guy has been gambling again and left his daughter at some lady's house, but she didn't want to stay there, so she just shows up at Richie's private detective office, and you start to worry that this precocious child is going to be all over this thing. But no, Richie doesn't want to look after a kid, so he drops the child off at Coopersmith's house, and instead he goes to Vegas with this girl who is in love with him. Not Richie, the other guy, the guy with the gambling problem. They convince him to come home already. We'll call the police about it, identify the guys who trapped you in this situation. But Richie's friend, I think his name is Danny, he doesn't do it because the bad guys have kidnapped his friend Dave and want him to do a crime for them, replacing a fancy necklace in his care at work with a fake. Richie gets mad at him and gets punched, and hears about the necklace scheme when he's just squatting in the bushes outside the bad guy's house.
What are you doing? Oh, I'm with the Department of Water and Power. We're just doing some inspecting here.
Yeah? Inspecting what?
Your sprinkler heads here. Now, this is really bad news. You know, you should be using the new wide nozzle, low density fittings.
Haven't I seen you before?
Well, shoot, I've been all over the neighborhood last couple of days. This time.
Hold it, fella.
Hey, Dodds. Pete wants to see you. Hey, that's Brockelman.
Hey, Pete!
And rushes to stop Danny while being chased by the goons. Danny didn't do the crime, though, instead confessing everything and getting married to his lady friend. Everything works out except Richie is sad because he had a crush on the girl. But then another lady walks in and proposes spending a week together at a hotel, so I guess Richie gets a rebound lay out of it. Richie witnesses a car crash and takes the guy to the hospital, and he goes to inform his wife, only to be told that her husband died 11 days ago. They go back to the hospital and nobody knows what he's talking about, and he spends the entire episode trying to chase down this guy, teaming up with the man's daughter to search for him, and everyone he talks to about this man keeps disappearing.
Hi, where is he?
You mean Coopersmith? Something terrific. His dame not to grace us with his company.
What?
He just called in. Him and his fishing pole. They're up in the Rockies, he says, somewhere west of Utah and south of Canada.
It's a real conundrum that leaves him on the lam with Jenny, holed up in a dingy motel with a coin-operated television in the room.
Ah, and how's this for sheer comfort? Almost feels like you're in orbit, if you kids know what I mean, huh?
I think it's just terrific. Thanks a lot.
You need quarters?
What?
Quarters for the closed-circuit TV.
This does lead to a baffling scene where Richie has to explain their next steps while pornography could be heard in the background, because apparently you can't turn it off.
Get dressed. No, sit down.
You are a very uptight character.
First of all, I am not a very uptight character.
Richie keeps dodging around these thugs who keep disappearing people, going directly to the dead man's employer to tell him he suspects Mr. Kelly is still alive, and the employer hires Richie to keep looking into it. So he does, chasing after the thugs when they kidnap Jenny, and turns out the whole thing is a federal sting. Everyone is fine, everyone is alive. They just fake the man's death to take down his boss, and Richie found him when he decided to run, and they were trying to keep a lid on it. But everything is good now that you're here. Have some cake. Then Richie realizes he accidentally tipped off the target and the whole sting is completely fucked. But Richie wires up and calls a meeting with the criminal so they can come arrest him for trying to kill him. Richie is high on adrenaline when Jenny runs over to congratulate him with sex.
I'd like to pay you a little something.
Would you forget it?
I could afford $10.
Would you just forget it, please?
Rich, I insist. You see, I just happen to have this roll of quarters.
They're going back to the seedy hotel to do it. Richie's gotten laid like 3 times by being a private eye. It's crazy. Richie Brockelman really follows the tradition of his mentors, by which I mean there isn't really any stylistic difference between this and the Rockford Files. This is the exact same crime-ridden Los Angeles where people are always getting in trouble with the mob and chased down by Goombas as the Steve's other big show, so much so the episodes of Richie Brockelman were included with Rockford in syndication.
Excuse me, but I believe I get $200 a day plus expenses.
Oh.
The only difference being Richie's getting a much worse theme song is that Beach Boys garbage from the pilot movie.
School's out. Sun's coming up and the days are getting longer.
It just feels strange that they use surf rock for this character whose asset is he looks young, yet he's tooling around in an old Mustang listening to music that was popular when he was 8. His private eye methodology is mostly lying, pretending to be somebody else and talking too fast, and it doesn't work most of the time. He spends a lot of time flipping himself up, claiming expertise when he clearly has none.
Every single ransom note I've ever seen says that, and believe me, I've seen dozens of them. Yeah.
And trying to get away with whatever he can. He's ambitious and obnoxious, very excitable and stubborn, and it's fun to watch people be annoyed by him. The show is cheap, it looks cheap, and it can get away with it, mostly. Just seedy, barely furnished rooms and warehouses. Maybe they have access to a boat or two. Not a lot of flourish on it, although it does have a very funny commercial bumper. Amazing. The final appearance of Richie Brockelman happened in 1979, once again on the Rockford Files, where Richie comes to Jimmy with a plan. His father owned a printing company until one day he was pressured into selling his company to Harold J. Coombs, a rich asshole who wanted the land for his racetrack. He handles all his negotiations the same way, coming at them from a position of strength, then having this bulky guy he's always traveling with beat them up. Richie visits home and finds his father brutalized and weak, and he's upset and wants to run a game on this Harold Jack Coombs, and he needs Rockford's help. Rockford doesn't want to do it. Coombs is too straight, he'll be tough to con, we don't have the right crew, but after a guilt trip from his own father, Rockford is in. So they start setting up the con by holding auditions. Several dozen local criminals have gathered at this community hall to get in on the con. They have a $40,000 budget and are offering $20 a head for background extras during the con.
That's it. We have our list. Tell the others they'll work at the auction.
You know, I've been going over the budget, and I think we're going to be at least $10,000 short.
It's kind of wild watching them set this up. So many people are involved in this. There's Frederick Doyle, an old hat at the classic scam. Jimmy's excited to work with him again. There's Odette Lependu, who has burned Jim in the past, and there's a lot of ex-lover tension between them. There's Thule, their admin staff. She's a real team player. Angel has brought along his father.
Take your pill, okay? I'm in for 10% of your fees, so let's be sure we make the cut, Daddy.
Put your mind at rest, Evelyn.
Posing as Dr. Herbert Weatherford, who is very proper, and he's here to play an Egyptologist. What is this con going to be? What's the plan? So, step one of this plan is to humiliate Coombs in such a way that he'll be emotionally invested into falling for the scheme. This involves talking a driver who hates Coombs for crushing his hand into lending them his stock car so Rockford can drive it in a pink slips race against Coombs for his prize-winning favorite car, the Coombs Special. Somehow this part goes off without a hitch, not even a problem, and also barely the point. They give the Coombs Special to that driver from before. They have so many more steps to this plan. So Rockford tricks Coombs into having a personal vendetta against Jimmy Joe Meeker.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, that looks like something Captain Space would wear on that Saturday morning kiddie show.
Anybody ever shut your mouth for you, fella?
Few people have tried.
The Texas oil field worker who is being secretly funded by an elusive millionaire. He makes an appointment in Meeker's office, a complete madhouse of people pretending to be busy, where they are really rude to him and set up a fake conflict between Meeker and Richard's curator character, so Coombs will start following Richie around and trying to gain his help in getting revenge on Meeker. This happens as they intend, with Coombs buying this weird vase we fixate on for Richie at the fake auction they set up, then giving it to Richie as a present. For some reason, probably con reasons, Richie keeps refusing to work with Coombs, which leads to Coombs kidnapping him and having his thug punch him in the stomach.
Well, you see, I'm due at the biannual meeting of the Mensa Society, and it's a really big affair. And as a founding member of the Tarzana chapter, if I don't show up, Harry, it's going to be a real mess. Ah!
Richie finally spills about what Meeker is up to. He is in charge of the second tour of the Tutankhamun exhibit, which is going to be big. We're talking Vegas, convention halls, bringing the mummy to the people.
Yes, sir. They're taking a whole real big show business approach to the whole thing. Vegas casinos, possible tie-ins with some Neil Diamond concert.
Coombs is obviously skeptical, but eventually buys into the idea after he meets with Frederick as a fake professor. They cut Richie loose and stick to Meeker, following him and Odette disguised as an Egyptian ambassador into a warehouse to watch people pretend to look at Egyptian artifacts, and Angel accidentally breaks one.
I have held greatness in my hand.
better slip out of here before we're spotted.
Harry, I finally know how I'm gonna get him.
Come on, Jack.
All of this is enough for Coombs to want to be bought into this King Tut event, but Jimmy tells him no because that's how cons work. So he has this guy rough him up, so he's forced to sign a contract cutting Coombs into the completely imaginary business.
And Dr. Fenimore, I would like you and Grace, if you please, to sign right down here where it says witnesses. And Harry will then notarize it since he's a notary, and it will be completely legal.
This is the part where Richie asks Jim if this whole scam is working out, and while he tries to play it off, it does seem a bit dicey. But they have yet to really put the screws to him, which is by implying that he is now cursed. First by killing a man in front of him, then planting fake stories in the newspaper and having Angel do a world-class freakout. He finally starts getting word when Jimmy Joe Meeker chokes to death while they're at dinner, which sends him running to Odette to demand out of the deal, and she says they can only do so if he provides $500,000. It's a long walk, but they manage to break this guy's brain so thoroughly that he can't sleep at night, so he delivers the cashier check as directed to Odette, who almost runs away with the money. A real key part of the whole scheme that they really should have covered for better.
She split on us.
Odette? Come on, Jim, you know her. I mean, what happened when you worked with her before?
She split on us for $50,000. Only this time it was your dad's money. That's why I want you to follow her.
But she didn't run, and they give the cashier's check to Mr. Brockelman, and I guess everyone is chill that we aren't splitting the take like 25 ways, or however many participated in this insane scam. Jimmy pretended to kill a guy. It was a lot.
You can get up. Oh. Yeah, you did a nice job.
Thanks.
Over the course of Richie's continuity, 3 different people have played Mr. Brockelman, Richie's dad. The first was played in the pilot movie by Mr. Roper, Norman Fell, who I think works pretty well as his dad and gets the most business, which is bizarre as he's only in 2 scenes. One when Richie comes home to pick up his laundry and fend off his parents' concerned questions.
So I could spend the night there, you know, meditating about my life, my future. That's what I did.
You could have called.
And then near the end of the movie where he is having dinner as a family at a restaurant and Mr. Brockelman helps Richie with his case.
Knowing that these guys are still after her, don't you think that he would have called the police or asked you for their description or something other than give you $1,000 and send you away?
He works as a father figure for him, being a minimum amount of supporting for his son and that weird job he has. The second father is during the series, where he's played by John Randolph, like the guy from Serpico, and he doesn't do anything interesting, just be worried about his sons. They say he's in all 5 episodes on IMDb, but he's not. He is less of a character than the secretary. Wildly underdeveloped show. The third father is shown during the Rockford Files, played by Harold Gold, grandfather disguising himself, and this is the one we learn the most about. For example, finally confirming that yes, Richie Brockelman is Jewish.
Sitting there at home staring at the wall saying stuff like that's a real Gonstermacher.
What?
That's Jewish for a big-time heavyweight.
But he spent the entire episode sad and broke, barely eating, his life crushed by some asshole that is so evil you're perfectly fine having him go insane worrying about a mummy's curse. I'm glad he gets his spirit back at the end when he's handed $500,000 basically for free. I guess he invested $40,000 into this literal crime. Maybe I question his judgment a little. Regardless of who's playing him, it's pretty clear that the person Richie really wishes was his dad is Jim Rockford himself. He says as much in an awkward moment where he's really trying to get some pointers about being a private eye from one of the greats.
So what I want to know is, your dad understands, doesn't he?
Rocky? Oh, boy, yeah, sure, he understands, sort of.
Do you ever go to him with stuff? The thing of it is I can't go to my dad and sound things out because he hates what I do. I just think that sometimes it's good to sit down and talk things out like you and I have been doing.
Yeah, well,
And really, Jim does act like a father figure for him. He helps him with a con. But it does mean that Richie is tied to Rockford in general. He's much better as a sidekick than a leading man, a Robin to Rockford's con artist Batman. He's got a good patter for the con game, and Jimmy was willing to show him the way. Hang on, I'm just remembering there are supposed to be private detectives, not con artists. This isn't Leverage. Although it is kind of Leverage. I think Richie Brockelman would have worked if he was the 4th character in a 1979 Leverage. Where exactly was I going with this? Anyway, that's Richie Brockelman, a goofy little guy. Thank you for watching. I have a Patreon. I'm updating it starting now. Like and subscribe. Help me out if you can. I can ask for things I want. We're sticking with the Columbo sign-off because things have not changed. So keep the spirit of Columbo in your hearts, dedicated to truth and to holding rich assholes accountable. Bye-bye.